Go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So we'll bring the meeting to order. I'd like to welcome people that joined us in the gallery, as well as the people on the Zoom for the council meeting of January 10th, 2023. Be it resolved that this regular meeting is now open at 6:30 p.m. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. All in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that the agenda be approved as presented. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor McDonald. All in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that the following minutes be approved as presented.
Through the chair, pecuniary interest.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So any disclosure of pecuniary interest? I will get the hang of it. So by the middle of the year. So be it resolved that the following minutes be approved as presented. Council orientation meeting of December 1st, 2022. Special meeting of December 5th, 2022. Zoning amendment public meeting of December 6th, 2022, as well as the regular meeting of December 6th, 2022. Moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. All in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to reports, be resolved that the following monthly reports be received. The Arena, CAO, Finance, Fire, Bylaw, Enforcement, Buildings, and Public Works reports. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any discussions or questions to staff on the reports? I think for January, they were pretty self-explanatory. So moved, did I mention it was moved by Councillor Shane and seconded by Councillor McDonald? No further discussion. Any or all in favor? Motion is carried. Moving to the Council of the Corporation of the Township of North Stormont hereby supports and recommends an extension of the draft plan approval for the La Flèche Industrial Subdivision SDG file 01-NS-S-207 to the Director of Planning Services of the United County of SDNG. Report moved by Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. Any discussions or questions? Deputy Mayor Densham.
Just a quick question on this one. So this one, again, is to renew, I guess, what the original plan was from before. Is that right?
Through the chair, and I'll let Peter Young speak in more detail. But yes, the La Flèche extension, this has been done several times since the inception of this project. I believe it was 2007 or 2008. And Peter can give a historical overview.
Yeah, and actually, as much about what's on the horizon, like what's coming up. We've extended it now, and I'm just wondering, is there actual plans on the horizon now to actually have some work occurring?
Through the mayor. So one of the most recent, I'm not sure if construction started yet, but both La Flèche and then GFL on this couple of the properties there have been doing some work and continuing to improve their properties there. I think there's a new building that was supposed to go up this year. And what's really needed for this subdivision is to finalize the water supply. Now that's also going to be affected by the landfill expansion and other matters like that. So I do not believe there's been any progress on that front. But in terms of building and developing the property, there has been progress with the owners of the subdivision and then some of the adjacent owners on the strip of land that goes up there right now that would be turned into a public road. Through the process, we can ask for updated drawings as well. So once we get the next stage coming in, we'll be asking them to meet current township standards, even though it was approved in 2008, or update the drawings just if there's anything major that changed. And I would say hopefully if the expansion to the landfill does go through, I would say it's even more likely we'll see development on this property. So that's why through Mo, we did support the recommendation for the extension that would go back to our office to if council supports it.
Any other questions? Seeing none, so I have one. So Peter, with respect to when we give the extension, does it change anything? Because we're looking at 207, I believe. So as far as the draft plan conditions, that site conditions that were put in, is there a chance that over a 10, 15-year period, we give this, that there could be changes in maybe appetite of council saying, okay, yeah, we're still on board, but is there any time where we can step in and add on to, or is that just always related back to the 207 agreement and site plan that was signed back then? They're just getting their extensions.
That's a great question, and the conditions of consent can be updated at any time. So if let's say a year or 6 months from now, they come back and come up with some of those more detailed designs, and we see something that, oh, actually based on the landfill extension, our original conditions said you had to study this area. Now we need to make sure you study this year. We can update those conditions at any time during that, as long as it's extended. So the answer is yes, that can be updated at any time by request from council.
And also, if I may add, if you look on the corridor of the 417 with the Amazon building, with the Ford parts now coming in Castleman, there's value where the corner of the 138, some municipalities have their own industrial parks going, and this would be in partnership, but it still would benefit taxes, employment, all kinds of stuff. So I think the value is still there for us to consider this and make the extension happen. So seeing no more discussion, all in favor? Motion is carried. 7.3, be it resolved that council approves the repair cost of the John Deere grader for 2023 budget. The motion is brought up by Councillor Shane, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. Before we go to discussion, could we possibly get an explanation, whether Blake or through our CAO, if you can bring us up to speed?
You explain the situation, what's actually gone on?
I would, yeah, maybe that'd be beneficial just so that we understand what the.
Okay, as it says in the report, in the end of October, the grader transmission failed. So we actually floated it to Brand Equipment. I get Nortrax in my head, but anyway, Brand Equipment, John Deere company. So basically, what I said, we were kind of in a lame duck situation there with council and the election, and the request finding out what was wrong with the transmission. They recommended that it be a full replacement, which in the report says the transmission roughly just to purchase a new transmission was $45,000, and their cost was up close to $80,000 for the complete repair job. So in that situation, we couldn't actually approve to go ahead and do the fix. So we thought what we could do is maybe look at options if the transmission is available through a manufacturer besides John Deere, which could be a cheaper cost. and taken to a local garage who do mechanical work on heavy equipment and farm equipment and heavy equipment. Would be, his labor rate was about half the price of the Brant's labor rate. So since we couldn't do it, and at that time, I made a decision that we'll search for a different, like a company that manufactures this transmission, which we found out is patented only through John Deere. There was no other, most companies you can buy, they don't build their own transmissions where you can buy it. So anyway, we at that point, we actually floated it back to the local garage. We purchased the transmission from the Brant equipment, John Deere. And it was basically a complete unit where we was take the transmission out, put the new transmission in. A lot of dismantling and stuff had to be done, parts taken off and all this. And I thought they were quite capable of doing the job. They did other big jobs that I know of anyway. And turned around, they got transmission in to the local company, and we got it running again and got out the road, and within the day we had functions not functioning properly, as the operator would say. So basically, in the yard we were doing some maneuvering of the machine, and a valve stuck. So not knowing what was wrong, we got Brand equipment come down to a service call to see, well, why is this valve stuck, or what's the reason for it? They're run by solenoids, and it's the grader is computerized. So it's not just a hose and a wire that moves the valve. It's all computerized and electronic control. And so anyway, long story short, that was just before Christmas, and the technician said, well, I have to order parts in and then get rescheduled, come back down, take the valve off, see what's malfunctioning, what the problem is. So as he did that, he turned around and he found pieces of, like we say in that, zip ties that were stuck in the valve. So he cleaned the valve, resealed it all, put it all back in place, and reconnect all the lines and stuff. And then he tried it in the shop with that one valve. There's multi valves on the grader. That one valve, then we took it outside, and he activated other components of the grader. And what happened? Another valve stuck, and lifted the grader right up in the air. So he recommended, and I talked to the service manager at Brant and the technician, and the service manager recommend that we do a complete flush, as there could be particles of this zip tie in some area of the grader that at some point could come out, get in a line, go to a valve, and make something else stick, which he said would be a safety concern if it got into steering, or if you're going down the road and all of a sudden that your roll board just goes down, and whatever could happen. And so we shipped it in that, like we shipped it in there, and they're actually they weren't supposed to start until the end of this week, maybe next, but they actually put a push on. They got some openings up, and they started doing the work a couple of days ago. They have a couple mechanics on it, taking it apart, get most of the cylinders off and all this. So it's kind of late. They already, basically, I discussed with Craig, and so we said basically we have to have the grader fixed. There's no value to us the way it is. So that's basically the story, that what happened and the problem is, and the costly expense is because the grader is mainly controlled with hydraulic systems and valves and motors and pumps, so.
Thank you. So just moving forward, so right now, are we able to work around not having the grader, or do we have everything under control as far as?
Well, it definitely would be handy if we get more ice rain and depends on winter. And like for ice blading and stuff like that, or we get heavy, like it would have been nice in that big storm to have that grader working. So because that's a grader we will open up roads with, and then I had to hire on private contractors because our plows couldn't go through some roads. It's enough, but not, it's, I can't put a number on. I think maybe $7,500 they had to spend on local contractors with tractors and blowers to open up roads so the plows can get through.
Okay, so I'm sure if there's questions, I'll take questions from the council. I'll start with Councillor Bajali.
So prior to the actual work being done to put in the new transmission, was the grader experiencing any issues with valves or hydraulics at all, or is this kind of?
Not this issue. Like it's, like I said, it's all computer control. We have had minor things in the past that it's got to reprogram the computer for the sensing of the valves and the controls and stuff, but not like this. We never had a valve stick, and when it sticks and it's running, it's full hydraulic pressure wherever that valve is sending the oil to. So.
And just a quick follow-up on that, and identifying that they have identified the issue being these zip ties, or pieces of zip ties in the lines. Being not a John Deere mechanic, nor have I worked on a production line for John Deere. Would it be safe to assume that zip ties are not something that, I'm sorry, that zip ties are not something that coming off the factory floor is something that's used to hold cables. Working in car garages before in car dealerships, typically when you're servicing a vehicle, you will use zip ties to pull back cables to be able to work in a certain area.
Yes.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just to go on the same line here, I think obviously there's damage that's been done. I think it's important that we get the grader back in service, so I'm going to support this, but obviously, and I'll leave it up to the CAO if he wants to comment any further, I think we need to take a serious look at what's happened here to allow zip lines to get in the hydraulic system.
So seeing no other discussion, so I agree. So as far as moving forward, we need to get this unit back in, but there will be further discussion to get behind the scenes of where we stand right now with what's taken place. So right now, the motion is to look at getting this machine repaired. And so the motion is on the table. So seeing no other discussions or comments, is everyone in favor? And the motion is carried. Which one? So this moving to the Agricultural Advisory Committee. So be it resolved, the council received a report outlining the proposed creation of an agricultural committee within the township of North Stormont. This committee will be a pilot project and will be revisited in 1 year. That council further provides direction to administration on implementation of the proposed pilot committee. So this is moved by Councillor Bigelli, seconded by Councillor McDonald. And I will ask Mr. Calder, do you want to give us a brief outline of the direction we're going to take?
Through the chair, this was an initiative of members of council. There was some appetite to review this. We're a largely agriculturally based community. So certainly I see benefit in exploring this. There was a jurisdictional scan done with about 4 other municipalities throughout Ontario. And there was a wide variance, as the report said, of committee makeup, number of committee members, how those committee members were appointed. But I believe the suggested approach is more general in scope. It gives council the flexibility to appoint individuals they deem who have the expertise and desire to benefit not just farmers, but the environment. And certainly it would be, I'm proposing, or administration is proposing, a 6-member panel, 2 of which would be elected officials. One would be one of our staff representatives from the planning group, and the remaining would be candidates that would make application just like many of the other township bodies. They would make application. Of course, council would review those applications and appoint accordingly. So did council have any detailed questions over and above what's already stipulated in the report?
Speaking on that, so I voiced my through what we're presented on there with Mr. Calder. So I would like to see 2 members of our council sit on this as well. And as for the laypersons, what would the process be? Do we post, and what just maybe giving us the timelines of when we're actually thinking of
Well, if through the chair, if council gives direction, the expression of interest, I call it, would be posted on the website and on our Facebook page, similar to the Committee of Adjustment and some of the other committees that we have formed in early December and November. So that would be a consistent approach. And then, of course, those applicants would provide their credentials and criteria of why they meet the threshold of what council is looking for. Council would vet those and determine the appropriate individuals to sit alongside the 2 elected officials plus a staff member.
Perfect, thank you. Deputy Mayor Ditch.
Yeah, so first I just want to say I'm super excited that this is happening and happening so quickly. So thank you, Craig, for all the work that you've done in surveying the different municipalities and pulling together a proposal. So great work. Yeah, I support as well. I think we've got 2 particular members of council kind of earmarked for this that I think will bring some real great value to it. The other piece too that I'm hoping is that we can solicit somebody as one of the members of the public, somebody who fits the description of agritourism or more. So hopefully we can talk to our friends there. And lastly, my hope is that really it's the public committee members who will drive the agenda and the discussion on this so that we can hear, especially during the first year, as we try to figure out what the value proposition is for this committee, that the members of the public will bring the things that are kind of boiling under the surface that we need to be aware of, things that they may be itching to get going or in the process of doing. And so I'm, like I say, I'm really excited and just thank you for the work that's been done on this.
Thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, and a lot of other municipalities have committees like this, and I myself have sat on, for example, the Environment Committee in the City of Ottawa for a while. So one of the things I was asking about was about topics for agendas and just keeping things very focused. Having a staff member who can really help direct and lead conversation, make it productive, and making sure that the committee is also tasked with giving some recommendations back to council, just lessons learned from other committees. I personally love engagement and consensus and all that kind of stuff. That's my bread and butter. But I've also seen where committees can go, like, they're just kind of meeting. They don't feel like they're getting anything done. Council doesn't see the value. So let's set it up right from the beginning with that intention that, we're going to have some firm ideas of what we'd like them to do. And definitely here, I agree, what the boiling issues are out there under the surface. And I had a quick chat with Kelsey, who's the president of the Stormont Federation of Agriculture, because I work with her. And she was very excited about the opportunity. She had spoken to a few of the other farmers she knows, like the Vogels and whatnot. And they were all really excited. They wanted to hear more. So I said, tune into the council meeting tonight and we'll probably reach out later. So some targeted engagement with our agricultural groups. But there are other rural issues. There's environmental issues as well. There's the tourism and economic development that is associated, and all these things, when we're in the rural area, they all kind of tie together. So I don't have an issue with it being titled the Agricultural Advisory Committee, but I think in truth, it'll be kind of a rural affairs kind of issue. But I'd be happy to see how it comes around in the first year. And but there's a lot of different issues that Bill 23 is going to create as well for us in our rural lands. So the timing is good, and I think it's a great idea. Just has to stay really focused and well directed by staff and council.
Thank you very much. Anything on this side? Seeing none, so I agree. So the reason behind the so-called pilot project, I think over the year, we can work out some of the works, and a year from now, we can bring it back to the table and just discuss, see if we can alter, but I think it'll be very beneficial to lead us, or at least help us, so we're not just coming on board. We have a good committee behind us. Now, I just heard the word Bill 23 from Councillor McDonald, and I apologize. In the additions, which I did not do, I mentioned I was going to do, to add, I would take, I believe is 12.9, which is the SD&G bill, which is going to be similar, but I'd like to bring it, where would we put that? Lori, for new business, I would, do you want to go under 10? I don't need to make a motion to be able to give direction and get it across.
Through the chair, and I believe we have that flexibility there. Just about every item from external correspondence is related to Bill 23, either from a rural perspective or an urban perspective. And certainly your request to have a report specific to the township builds on these.
But under correspondence, I thought where you can ask questions and get information, but I thought we would be better off to slide it into new business under a motion so that we can give directions for our planning department to come with a report at the January 31st or into February, but whatever works with their timelines.
And that would have to be, that could be slotted in under new business if that's what the mayor is preferable to.
Work for you?
Yep.
Is that something we can
Yeah,
work?
we do, yeah.
Perfect. So back to, because I don't think I had the motion carried. So back to our Polo project, no more discussion or questions. So all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 01-2023 be a bylaw to authorize temporary borrowing be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of January 2023. Moved by Councillor Shane, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. Maybe as new members of council, Carly, can you maybe just give us a brief overview of this this borrowing that we're going to be doing?
Sure, through you, Mr. Mayor. So the temporary borrowing bylaw comes every year, and it's just to authorize for 2023 our temporary borrowing amounts that we have set up at BMO. I am happy to say that we have not used it for about, I'd say about 4 or 5 years. So it's acting as a safety net if in case we run into any cash flow issues.
So the motion is read. Do I have any questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion's carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 02-2023 being a bylaw for imposing special annual drainage rates upon land in respect of which money is borrowed under the Tile Drainage Act be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of January 2023. We have a mover, Councillor Bajelli, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Again, Carly, are you the one that's going to speak on this?
Yes, I can. So through you, Mr. Mayor, this is just approving a tile debenture loan. This is typically rare, but being given the interest rates nowadays, we do have an applicant that that would like for us to act as the conduit between the ministry, and the request is to have a borrowing amount to pay the tile drainage for council's approval.
Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be resolved that bylaw 03-2023, being a bylaw to appoint a deputy treasurer, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of January 2023. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. I think this is pretty self-explanatory. Anybody want to add anything? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 04-2023, being a bylaw to appoint acting deputy fire chief, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of January 2023. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor McDonald. Any discussions there? Maybe we can ask or before we go. You're good, okay, so we can ask our fire chief to give us an overview on Mr. Bailey.
Bailey, yes. So Captain Bailey has been with the department for 15 years now. His extensive knowledge of buildings as well, being the CBO in the township of the La Nation. But again, it met all the criteria, is very dedicated to community, very dedicated to the station as well. This is because our current Deputy Chief Adams will be retiring. He has agreed to stay on for some time for the transition to occur, but we look forward. And all three deputies from the other station also supported this decision. So we're very happy to have him join us as Deputy Chief.
Perfect, thank you. While I was on, I'll go on first. While I was on the fire department, I had the opportunity to work with Mr. Bailey, and yeah, he is one of those guys that can kind of
Yeah, he's very
fix
calm.
anything. He's just a natural. So
Yeah.
Deputy Mayor Densham.
Yeah, sounds like a great guy. And I know he's got a lot of very pertinent experience. And I just wanted to take a moment to thank outgoing Deputy Chief Kerry Adams for his service. I'm not sure how many years is
20 years this year.
20 years, yeah,
Yeah.
that's amazing. So again, we're a volunteer dependent, not just base, but dependent municipality. And it's that type of dedication and service that I think needs to be recognized. And so thank you so much to outgoing Deputy Chief Kerry Adams.
Well said. So that being on the table, I got the mover. So all in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw 05-2023, being a bylaw to appoint a marriage license issuer and deputy marriage license issuers, be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 10th day of January 2023. So we have a mover, Councillor McDonald, and seconded by Councillor Shane. So Greg, maybe you can just enlighten us on, we're going to be starting to.
Just a quick overview. Historically, Austin Winters and Mary McQuaig had that designation. Of course, Austin has moved out west and Mary has stepped down. So we did have to have a primary contact and some backup for Leanne. You always want to have two individuals in an office who, just in case there's some unfortunate circumstances where one is either on vacation or ill. So we did access some training that was available from the province on December 7th. Both Leanne and Melissa Gardner took the training, and they will both be have the ability to issue the marriage licenses on behalf of the township.
Well, that was my question. I was wondering if there's a special dedication you needed, but any questions from council? Seeing none, all in favor? Motion is carried. Okay, so we're gonna jump into the new business. So this will be the one in regards to, said be it resolved, the council directs planning staff to generate a report to outline specific impacts and potential future decisions of council associated with Bill 23, More Homes Built Faster Act of 2022. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Shane. Do I have any questions from council? I knew this was coming. Go ahead, Councillor McDonald.
You know, I heard your comments to ask for sort of an update from our planning staff for a township specific analysis. I think that's a really good idea. And my days are personally full of Bill 23 meetings right now. So it's definitely having effects all across the province, and the uncertainty that it creates for the development community, both sides of that fence, the developers and the people trying to facilitate development, is really unfortunate. I think the quicker we can figure out what it means for us and how we want to adapt, the better. And I also, just in my reading of different articles and things on the weekends, it seems like the province is going to overall be stepping back and stepping the provincial interest back from a lot of different matters. And that responsibility, in my view, is then going to fall to the local municipalities, both counties and townships. And I think Peter's report, where they brought forward the idea of continuing to hold public meetings for applications, is an example of that. Where as a county, you get together and you say, this is still something that's important for us in the local area. The province isn't going to make us do it. We have to decide what we want to do. So I love the idea of having that power and whatnot, even though it creates a lot of chaos and uncertainty for people. I just think it's an opportunity as well for us to decide what we want to do moving forward with things that are of our interest locally and at a regional county level. So I'm bringing a positive spin to it because I think we should and we have to. It is what it is, but I feel like overall it's a very scary time to be in planning. It's a scary time to be in environmental planning for sure. But I'm confident in our area in Eastern Ontario. It's not our first time sort of figuring out how we want to do things and doing them our way. So we're pretty good at that. So I'd look forward to seeing an analysis and having a little more discussion about what we can do and how we want to move forward.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Densham.
Yeah, and you used an important word, Allison, adapt, how we want to adapt. So I would encourage with the report, any recommendations you may have as well on how we can adapt or how we should be thinking. I suspect this may not be the only time we need to meet about this topic. We may need to, every third month or something like that, have, as we understand things better, as we're adjusting and adapting, new recommendations that come on board. So it's a great idea, but again, I think we're going to need guidance and recommendations along with just kind of an analysis and a better understanding.
Before I take on more, I don't know if it's easier if you want to answer questions that were posed before having too much in your head. So did you want to add to that, Peter?
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Landry. I kind of put together just 6 kind of points that we'd be looking at in our report that would be going to council in the future. So the 6 changes I found that impact North Stormont the most. One would be if there is ever a development charge bylaw in the future, what the municipality can charge for. And then at the SCG at the county level, council has approved us initiating that study. So that would apply to North Stormont. Many of the exemptions that are listed in my report to county council are more for urban areas, but some would affect North Stormont. Generally, rural municipalities undercharge for development charges. They're not going to charge 150,000 like in the city of Toronto. In this area, it's more 4,000 to 8,000, I would say. A bit higher in Prescott Russell, but STG it's probably 48,000. So I don't think we have to be too worried about that, but it does just affect what could be charged. Third-party appeals. It's definitely going to be interesting as council, as the members of council that are on committee of adjustment. Now, when you make a decision on a minor variance, it's pretty much final, whereas before a neighbor could put in an appeal. So just kind of puts that responsibility on the committee members that they can't kind of be try and say, oh, let's just throw this to the board to decide, their tribunal, like this is the final say. So that's pretty interesting change. As of right, third units with urban services, that's another one that's already in effect. So council may know about the secondary units that are already allowed, and a lot of people are building those in our community, building a house with an apartment in the basement or a secondary unit in the back. Now the new legislation is saying you can have 3 units, so that affects our servicing capacity. You know, if we're trying to plan for a new subdivision, do we plan that every unit could have, every lot could have 3 different units, and every townhome can have 3 units every. So if you have 4-unit townhome, that's 12-unit building potential altogether. So parking definitely can be an issue, and there's maximum 1 parking space, even though you know, we're not getting we don't have a light rail or bus system that's here. When we're coming forward with our bylaw update this year, that's incorporating all the official plan updates, provincial policy statement updates. This part will be included, so we can have something tailored more specific for North Stormont, make sure the setbacks and all those work for our communities. As Councillor McDonald mentioned, the public meetings requirement for subdivision was removed, but at the county level, we've confirmed that. However, the format may change. Some things we've been talking about is doing an open house in the community where the subdivision is versus more of a formal meeting at county council. Probably easier for residents, let's say Moose Creek subdivision, to go to the community center and hear about it there instead of coming to a formal council meeting. Site plan, one of your last meeting in December meeting, we brought forward a proposed bylaw for council that was passed. Now proposals less than 10 units or 10 units or fewer are exempt. We're already seeing developments, kind of people know about that, and we're getting proposals of 9 or 10 units, and they just need a building permit. So it'll be interesting, and that those bylaws will be coming forward through the joint SDG subdivision manual. We'll be kind of updating some of the township standards and potentially introduce some lot grading policies as well to capture those kind of denser projects. Finally, I think the number 1 change that affects North Stormont is the change to the Conservation Authorities Act. The new legislation prohibits involvement in planning for environmental type of studies, water quality, stormwater, kind of focuses the role on natural hazards. So we're going to be meeting the next few weeks with our municipalities and conservation authorities. Unfortunately, there's no transition time for this. It was kind of a just Christmas surprise that we got this new legislation change. So we're going to meet with our CAs and all the local SDG municipalities. We'll have to figure out how do we now address some of these exemptions. Do we go to our engineering consultant, SEMA, that works for North Stormont? Do we ask them to take on more of a load? You know, it's going to be, let's say, if we're paying, typically, we're paying much lower rate for a conservation authority than an engineering consultant. Do we look at shared resources at the county level or sharing among local municipalities, which a few services are doing, or can it continue to be provided under other legislation, such as the Municipal Act by the conservation authorities? So we're going to be kind of brainstorming with the other local municipalities and CAs and reporting back to council. It may not be, I wouldn't say it'll be right away in next meeting in January, maybe in February or March by the time we discuss it with all of us, come up with a proposal. In the meantime, we can still use external consultants if we get applications in the meantime, but we are seeing that would, I know going through the cost analysis for reviewing environmental impact study, it's significantly cheaper at the Conservation Authority than the planning consultant, the environmental consultants, and usually there aren't too many that, if you can actually find one, is the other problem. So unfortunately, some of those changes actually will increase the cost of development and potentially have delays compared to sharing things at the CA with Prescott Russell, STNG, Leeds and Grenville, City of Ottawa. So But again, it's the law. We'll have to deal with it and make the right changes. So we'll come back to council. It might not be one report, it might be a couple, depending on what's ready to go. But there's several projects underway that we'll report back to you on.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Bajel.
Just a quick comment, and I would just encourage staff to really look at, when you're putting this report together, really look at it through a micro focus lens on North Stormont. Kind of lose the county hat and really focus. One thing we're not going to lack is outside opinions on Bill 23 from every municipality across the province. So it would be nice to have something that is micro focused specifically for us here at North Stormont.
Thank you. Good. It's, go ahead, Councillor
I
McDonald.
just know we have Roma coming up and we're going, so I don't know if there's going to be opportunities, but I know that I've thought about it quite a bit, and the province has made it very clear what their intent is with this legislation, and I know that it's important to them and it's key to their mission. So I know it's not well received to say, hey, we don't like this, we don't agree, but I still think it might be good to just bring up how it does affect the rural perspective and Eastern Ontario perspective, and hearing that from Peter as well as myself. So we are going to be there, and we're probably going to be having conversations. So I don't think it's necessarily a lost cause to try to get some of this stuff kind of a little bit back on the rails, but clearly the intent and the attitude right now is very firm. But I still think it's worth trying to keep it in mind. We're going to be right in the middle of Toronto, so it's a great opportunity to bring our perspective to our friends there in the province.
Thank you. So I've been trying to read and catch up, and that basically why it's spruced up, where I thought if you can come back with, like Councillor Bajelli said, sort of a micro look at the township, I would love to see recommendations of it. So some of my concerns, one, I hadn't really put thought into it, but you're saying about infill, that can drastically change people taking advantage. Oh, I can have a third. So the water and sewer allocations that we've got, it's easy to establish a subdivision that's got 200 lots. There you go, you've got, but now in the village, there's not that many infill throughout our villages. But if you start taking different now houses that are turning into a single family dwelling with turning into 3 units of, so that has an impact. My worry is I think not every area, when you go through the GTA stuff, have the relationship that we have with our conservation authorities, whether it be like South Nation or, and that's where we kind of see it, where the peer reviews, which now we no longer can turn to the conversation to look at, to conservation to look at. So that is a big factor. They're basically a cost recovery nonprofit, basically, versus I have not seen an engineer firm that works on that. So it will be like, it was cost effective for us to just get peer reviews, whether it's for Stormont, geotechnical studies, anything of that sort that would move. So I don't know, as far as development charges, I think from what I understand, it applies more for higher density than the single family dwelling when it comes to parkland and
The parkland, for sure, that's more of a big city.
Okay, so just because we just basically implemented this cash in lieu for our parks, and I was saying, yeah, now they're taking it away. So there's a lot of stuff to like I said, we're going to have to adapt. But if we can get something back just to help us, you're sort of the expert, giving us more material that meets our concerns, is going to be easier for us to wrap our heads and see the direction that we will have to adapt, I guess is the proper word. So and timeline, like I said, I'm not looking at, we have a meeting January 31st, and then we fall into the one meeting in February. So maybe through our CAO, you can let us know what with Mo and yourself, if there's something you can bring forward, report to one of our future councils.
And definitely, and this applies not just to the planning department, but to building, to public works, drainage. So it's definitely through Craig, we'll meet and make sure it's North Stormont specific, including Is there a consultant? Is there shared with another municipality? Do we need more resources at North Stormont? So definitely we'll work with Craig and the whole team at North Stormont to make it specific to the township.
Go ahead, Councillor or Deputy Mayor Ditchett.
Yeah, and my mind goes to budget. So any commentary on how you think this might affect our, how we need to view budget for the coming year? If there is, again, I don't know. This is creating a lot of extra work, a lot of extra manpower, et cetera, that may play a role there.
That's a good question. I think in the short term, a lot of these charges are covered by fees or either through usually through under the Planning Act or a municipal act charge. So it's done on a cost recovery basis where if North Stormont needs to hire a consultant for a subdivision, we can charge it out to the developer. So I don't feel that there'll be budget implications, and if there's new resources that need to be added, and a lot of times those would hopefully be funded primarily by fees. But I'd say because development is fee-based, maybe more like that, likely that municipality may have to look at increasing some fees or at least through the peer review process, pass on any additional costs to the applicants. But definitely, and I was going to say the other one is for lot grading. Again, that's typically covered by fees and deposits as well. So likely through that.
And last, we're again focusing on North Stormont. If you also can look at, we've been talking about a lot of the negative side of things, but if there's also some of the positives that could impact us, that could be, on fast track. So I'm sure there has to be some positive, because I mean, it's, and is it just on the developer side or not? But I'd like to get your sense of if there is positive that we also can look at on benefiting with the big picture. So anyways, I appreciate it, and we'll look forward to getting the report back. So I have the mover and seconder. We're just giving direction to Peter. So if there's no other discussion, I will ask for a vote. All in favor? Motion is carried. So be it resolved that the correspondence as listed as items 12.1 to 12.11 on the agenda be received, which a lot of it, as you see, is a lot to do with Bill 23. But is there any questions in regards to any of those items on the list?
Through the chair, 7 of the 11 items are related to Bill 23. Of course, there's 12.1, which is the municipal repayment limit, which basically sets out the thresholds for long-term debt municipalities can incur. It reflects the previous year's FIR, and Carly is certainly the expert if she wants to expand on what I've just said. 12.2 is the OCIF, and again, there was a minor increase for 2023. It's about $3,000 over our allotment from 2022.
No questions, so we'll accept the report. All in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that this meeting adjourns to a closed session for the following reason. It deals with personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employee. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor Bajelli. See no discussion, all in favor? It's carried. That's when we reopen, so we're good. Welcome back for those that are still patiently listening. We're going to be going back into open council. So let's be resolved that the public session reopens at 9:40 PM. Moved by Councillor Shanes, seconded by Councillor McDonald. All in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that bylaw number 06-2023 being a bylaw to ratify and confirm council's action at its regular meeting of January 10th, 2023. Be read a first, second, and third time, pass, sign, and seal in open council this 10th day of January 2023. Moved by Deputy Mayor Densham, seconded by Councillor Gajelli. All in favor? Motion is carried. Be it resolved that this regular meeting adjourns at 9:42 PM. Moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Deputy Mayor Densham. All in favor? Motion is carried. And thank you very much, council, for tonight's meeting, and everybody enjoy the rest of their evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.